Ladies and gents, welcome back. The opposition to Bill C-11, the Internet Censorship Bill here in Canada, is growing exponentially, and this is only just before it becomes law in the country. It has passed its second reading in the Senate, and, well, now we're starting to hear from people that are furiously against this. YouTube creators coming out in the tens of thousands. That's just the creators, and then there's, obviously all their fans as well, not wanting to see their favorite creators disappear. And this is all, again, in the auspices of saving creators from what their own doing. No, it's to create an environment that would promote Canadian creators. It'll actually do the opposite. Here's an opinion piece from the Toronto Sun. Goldberg says, opposition growing to Trudeau's dangerous censorship bill. We'll get into why they call it censorship bill, but let's start it from the beginning. The chorus of Canadians from all walks of life are calling on the Senate to kibosh the Trudeau government censorship bill. It is growing louder by the day. Last week, a letter from over 40,000 Canadian content creators urged senators to reject Bill C-11 in its current form, sounding the alarm on what they see as a very dangerous piece of legislation. From day one, Heritage Minister Pablo Rodriguez, the government's point person on C-11, has claimed that the legislation has designed to support Canadian content creators, saying it will help make sure that the cultural sector works for Canadians and supports the next generation of artists and creators. He should have asked the content creators before making that claim. Now, it's funny to me that we have a heritage minister and we're trying to talk about the culture in Canada. We have a prime minister that says we don't have an identity. There is no Canadian identity. Well, how do you promote Canadian heritage if that's the case? I'm drawing a blank on that one. In a letter sent to every member of the Senate, Digital First Canada, a group representing tens of thousands of small-time Canadian creators, warned Bill C-11 would kill the careers of various artists the Trudeau government claims it wants to help. Right now, our livelihoods are at risk, reads the letter, and notes that the government rammed Bill C-11 through the House of Commons without any room for debate or amendments. Earlier this year, over 40,000 creators and users raised their voices in the House and threw letters to defend their digital businesses against these changes. We were ignored. So much for having the backs of Canadian artists. Am I right? Major companies like Google and YouTube have also come out forcefully against Bill C-11, warning that Canadian consumers will be force-fed government-approved content. Google, partnering with Open Media, notes Canadians' favored content could be systemically downranked in favor of content the CRT deems Canadian enough, according to the wildly outdated 1980s criteria. And this is really interesting because, to explain exactly how this might work, Mutahar has been making videos. Mutahar, if you don't know, is some ordinary gamer on YouTube. He's got an audience of over 3 million subscribers, and he explains right here how this would actually hurt, not help the people that they're trying to help.
Is that when it comes to CanCon or Canadian content or pushing Canadian creators higher than others on the digital platform, on surface it sounds kind of cool, but in reality when it comes to how the algorithm actually works is, let's say for instance you're in the Canadian YouTube, right? You're geofenced into Canadian YouTube, you've accessed Canadian YouTube through a Canadian account, or you're signed in literally within the confines of the country. So now you're watching a video. Now on your recommended side, it's not YouTube actually using their algorithm to find out what you want to watch the most. Sometimes, because of government regulation, they're forced to show my face or another digital creator from Canada. Now the way that the algorithm works is if they're recommended something to you and you're not clicking it, you're not watching it, they will actually push that creator down in the algorithm. Because as far as YouTube's concerned, oh, that person's not interesting, that person's not engaging. Let's just slow that person down and replace them with somebody more friendly or somebody more popular. Now, this is obviously bad because when you can imagine it, not every, like, if you show my face as somebody that's not interested in it, obviously they're not going to click it. But if you just showed my face artificially and they're not going to click it, that hurts me in the entire global sphere. Same for any other creator out there, which is one of the scarier aspects of this kind of content, or this kind of bill, if you will. At Hair Day and everything aside.
Anyway, so I'll leave a link in the description for his video. This is an update on leaving Canada, and this is where he gets into how it might actually be beneficial for people who actually earn a living on the internet to just leave Canada. Just leave Canada and go somewhere else, because if you're uploading from somewhere else and Bill C-11 passes, Bill C-11 could actually hurt creators if they are deemed Canadian content at all. Now, a lot of Canadian content creators are wondering, well, how do you become Canadian content? Well, it may actually become a red tape thing where you don't get awarded being called Canadian content at all. So that may hurt Canadian content creators in that way as well. The government picking and choosing who is going to be at the top of the algorithm is not something that we want. It's actually going to hurt Canadians in the end. YouTube is issuing similar message. If Bill C-11 is put into practice, this means that when viewers come onto the YouTube homepage, they're served with Canadian content that the Canadian government regulator has prioritized rather than content they're interested in. YouTube chief producer officer wrote in a recent blog post, some groups claiming to represent creators like the Canadian Independent Music Association have come out in favor of the legislation, but these groups need to think through the legislation's implications. Even if Bill C-11 helps them find little more success here at home, and there's no guarantee of that, it could be detrimental to any success beyond Canada's borders. Well, we can only just look at the radio stations. Go on a Canadian radio station, you'll hear songs that you'll never, ever, ever, ever hear anywhere else in the world. About 40% of what you're listening to is being rammed down your throats, whether you like it or not, rammed down your ear canal, whether you like it or not. Rather than accepting an overwhelming amount of constructive criticism, Rodriguez has doubled down on his rhetoric, claiming that companies like Google are simply trying to intimidate Canadians. Google's been helping Canadians. I can't say this enough. And honestly, and I'm not shilling for Google because they've been known to suppress particular points of view on YouTube, but not as much as this will. Absolutely, but we'll get into that. He couldn't be more wrong. Companies like Google are trying to warn Canadians about the harm of C-11 will inflict on Canadian producers and consumers. Tasked with salvaging a bad piece of legislation, Rodriguez seems to think name-calling and finger-pointing are the government's only real line of defense on promoting Bill C-11. If he had a stronger message to deliver to Canadians, we would have heard it by now. Little wonder the government is resorting to its rhetoric over substance. Initial concerns about Bill C-11 also remain. If the government bureaucrats set to choose what the content they push on Canadians, there's genuine risk that the government will be tempted to use filtering powers to silence its critics. Now, why would we assume this? Well, we only have to look at Jagmeet Singh when he was asked about this a few months ago, I believe. This is a little while ago, but he came out with a completely different narrative than the others when talking about Bill C-11. Bill C-11, of course, is supposed to protect Canadian content creators. What is Jagmeet Singh's take on this?
Our position on C-11, and I think it's a really important question around how we approach social media. Right now, social media is governed by billionaire tech companies. The algorithm, the choice of what gets seen, what doesn't get seen, is made by those that own the company. So Mark Zuckerberg chooses what gets seen in your feed, what messages get promoted, what algorithm is used to promote some messages or content and to not promote other content. And we have heard very clearly from whistleblowers at Facebook that they incentivize, promote, and use algorithms to make divisive, hateful messages and content more prevalent on the platform because it increases engagement. Why would we let social media billionaire companies use their own algorithms that promote hateful messages because they can make more money off of it. They can have more engagement, rather than allow Canadians to have a say in what content is put out, what content is promoted, what content receives greater emphasis. I certainly would rather Canadians have a say, that we have a democratic input into what content is promoted, rather than allowing the social media companies, which have been proven to be promoting hateful messages, allowing misinformation.
Okay, he's just repeating himself at this point. But at this point, what is he saying? He's saying we want to say in what you get to see on not just your YouTube feed, but on your Facebook, maybe your Twitter feed. They're going to get involved in that. They want to design what it is that you're being seen. And this is user-generated content. This is more than just creators like myself making videos and putting them on YouTube. He's talking more about Nan, who wrote something up about the government and doesn't want they don't want them to see that. If it's negative about the government, we want to have it taken down, essentially is what he's saying there. We don't and the idea of a democratic, like we want to democratically be able to approve this. We want Canadians to have a say. The Canadians don't have a say in what the CRTC regulates. They don't have a say. You don't have a say in what radio stations are forced to play on their radio. We don't have a say in what Netflix is regulated to have on their platform. And this is why people have VPNs, to get around this. Now, getting back to the article, with Bill C-11 now in the Senate, members of Canada's upper house have an opportunity at least to give the bill the scrutiny it ought to have had when it was before the House of Commons. And so far, senators on Transport and Communications Committee have heard from dozens of witnesses warning about the dangers of Bill C-11. With widespread opposition to the bill coming from all corners of the country, the Senate should do more than simply amend the legislation. Senators should refuse to pass the bill altogether. Given the scale of the opposition to Bill C-11, the government may even be relieved to see it go. So, and then this leaves it up to you guys. What do you think should happen here? Of course, leave your comments in the comment section down below. Of course, I'm opposed to this bill. I'm opposed to it being brought forward. I don't think the government should be picking winners and losers, or trying to pick winners and losers, and actually hurt the ones that they're trying to pick. This would just upset the apple cart. It would ruin content creation for Canadians. And again, people who are making money at this might be incentivized to just up and get out of Canada. That is definitely an option for content creators, and I'd hate to see that happen. I'd really hate to see that happen. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think of the situation. Sorry, my voice is going. I'm trying my best here, but links as always in the description down below. You can check out all those videos and articles that I had in the video today. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please consider doing that today, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.